Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris, and this is your favorite daily real estate coaching and training podcast. And we've got a really fun show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about 9 brilliant ways real estate agents are using ChatGPT. Now, I want to start out by giving you guys a mini rant. I promised Julie I wouldn't go long on this. We mentioned this. We talked about this a little bit on our last Friday's show, where we're talking about the fact that the dystopian future of AI taking over real estate agents' lives and putting all agents on the streets and digging ditches or what have you is a complete lie. And you've got to start realizing that what we're dealing with is a power struggle between big government who wants to control AI and individual, I think capitalistic entrepreneurial minded folks that want to see AI for what it is. What are the differences? Well, if all of a sudden people are able to create businesses, create income, create alternative versions of themselves that are no longer dependent on locale, no longer dependent on the government, no longer dependent on the things that the government needs you to be dependent on so it maintains control, well, that's a threat to the government. And I know I'm sounding a little bit conspiracy theory here right now, but just bear with me. The essence of where and this happens all the time with any new technology, but the government's going to struggle to keep control of it because it's fearful of losing control. And that's what we're experiencing now. And when you hear people who are going to start telling you that, a dystopian future is certainly in the cards for all of us, and AI is going to make it so that, we're all going to be AI slaves and all these, it's just this crazy lunatic stuff that you're hearing coming out. It's the exact opposite. What's really going to happen is AI is going to free us. AI is going to free us from the mundane tasks that have occupied most of our lives, most of our days for most of our lives. AI is going to free us to become the highest and truest versions of ourselves as real estate practitioners. AI is not going to reduce the number of real estate agents. AI is going to increase the number of real estate agents. There'll be fewer barriers to entry to get into real estate. AI is going to increase more income. It's going to create more income, more people making more money to buy, guess what, more houses, right? So what AI is going to do is it's going to essentially have the same effect on humanity as previous big revolutions have, industrial revolution, and you guys can go back into history and study all this yourself. That's the truth of what's actually going to happen. AI is going to cure health problems. AI is going to increase, lifespans. AI is going to make it so that you have more ability to travel and have a richer, fuller life. That's where the technology is going. So I strongly caution you before you start thinking your best days are behind you because this big AI boogeyman's about to come in and eat your listings. I really would challenge all of you to just think about logically, when has that been true in any of the previous iterations of these big steps forward because of technology? Julie?
Yeah, that's well put. And I think that something this technologically advanced and fast moving can be really intimidating. And I know that there are some listeners who haven't tried ChatGPT out yet, for example, because they think like it's this big thing, especially if you're reading the headlines, to your point, that's just going to make you completely irrelevant and who's going to need you anymore anyway. So the purpose of today's podcast is to just look at, we probably won't get through all 9, but we're going to look at a few examples of how you can either dip your feet in and just start using it and let it start learning your habits and what makes you tick so that it can be a better assistant ultimately for you. And for some of you, it's taking it to the next level. And I have to say, you adopted it faster than I did. I probably think it's been around for reals, really about 12 to 18 months. I probably waited 2 or 3 months longer than I should have or would have liked to now that I am using it on a daily basis. So one of my points today is to just take it task by task and start using it and utilizing it and turning it into your ultimate free assistant. Does that make sense?
It does. And we've used AI to help create financial plans for ourselves and our coaching clients.
Mm-hmm.
We've used AI to help help with medical things, honestly.
I've used it on coaching calls to help craft a really good counteroffer. Lots of different things.
Sorry, you caught me mid slurp on a cup of coffee. Well, so I was listening to somebody who was in the health space talk about the fact that getting blood tests now, essentially blood tests are something everyone should be doing. And Julie, what's the one that we're using? What's the name of that company?
Prenuvo? Is that the one you mean?
Pernuvos for the scans. What's the test company? I can never remember the name.
I know. I can't remember it either. I have it in my email. I can
Okay,
tell you in
well,
a second.
so you should be doing so.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, the expense of getting blood panel tests, where then you would have all these results from your blood panel, was having somebody actually go through and read and interpret and explain to you all the meanings of all the different blood types. And, maybe, you have this issue maybe that's brewing up that you need to be aware of with this part of your body or whatever. I don't want to make this a health podcast.
Function health.
Function Health. Okay. So
Yeah.
what Function Health does is, for example, and Julie and I are working on the health podcast like we promised we would. What Function Health does is allows you to get a blood panel test that before would have cost, I don't even know how much, thousands and thousands of dollars. And the reason that they're able to reduce the price to, I think it's $500 a year or something, is because they are using AI to read the results. That's why. And Julie and I are also big advocates of having full body CT scans. Is that what they are? The one
MRI, I think. I think they're MRI.
I think it's MRI. Yeah.
We'll be
Well,
more detailed on it. I think it's 2
Okay.
podcasts from now where you'll hear more about this.
The one that doesn't involve radiation, whichever one. I think
Yes.
I think it's MRI. Yeah. So we use Provenu for that. So okay, how is it that they can do full body scans and not have the expenses be ridiculous? The expense be ridiculous. Well, the machine itself is a fixed cost, so that's cost what it does. But they use primarily, guess what, AI then to read the results. So that means the most expensive aspect of reading an X-ray or an MRI would have been the radiologist. They're now being replaced by AI. And what's really, again, fascinating to me is that there's been a lot of studies and tests done of doctors without using, that aren't using AI, doctors that use AI, and then doctors that don't use AI to help read test results, doctors that do use it, but only partially.
But they use it, but they use it to help interpret what they're going to be saying.
And then there's ones that actually lean into it. And of
Yeah.
all the 3 varieties, right? So there's the first doctor, like, I can use that stuff. And then there's the middle one, which just says, well, I'll use it sort of, but I kind of don't really trust it. And then there's the one that basically loads it into AI. The one that loads it into AI and have the AI do the reading of the results actually is the most accurate of all of them. And so that's where medical stuff is going. So AI will do the reading of the results. The doctor will look over it just to see if it makes sense and check everything it had to say, all its presuppositions and whatnot. And then the doctor might be the one that's explaining it to the client. And that exact same thing is going to happen in real estate. So all the Mickey Mouse aspects of the transaction are going to be resolved. You won't have to do it anymore. And you're going to be the one that's going to be dealing directly with the customer, which means you'll be able to deal with guess what, a lot more customers. And I got great news for you. If you've listened to our past podcasts, and on one of the podcasts that we've had the most attention from, most downloads and views from, is Make Housing Great Again. If you guys haven't listened to that one, you can just find it anywhere. Just Google, Make Housing Great Again, and you'll listen to the show we did. There's no doubt there's going to be an enormous uptick in the demand for housing, which means there's going to be an increase in the demand for agents, which means there's going to be an increase in the opportunity for you to help more people and make more money. So you are in the right place at the right time, but you got to open your mind to the reality that big, huge technological revolutions like this have always brought the improvement of people's lives. I will say one big lie, Julie. I've heard different people that are proponents of AI perpetuating, which I really, truly don't believe. Well, do you remember, like, every time there's these big tech, and you and I have arguably been through, I'd say only one, really with the internet, because the internet consumer internet, and then everyone was saying, oh, it's going to result in people working less. It's going to all the rest of it. I think that's a lie. I think what AI is going to do is it's going to allow you to have a variety of interests, a variety of income sources. And it's going to, and as a result of that, because you choose to, and because you're enjoying it, you're going to actually make more money. So you might choose to have different types of businesses that AI is helping you run, and you might actually end up spending more time working than you are now, but it's going to be more enjoyable and you're going to be making a lot more money. That, in my mind, is what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like, ask yourself what you would do, what would you pursue, what would you invent, what would you follow if you didn't have 50% of your day getting eaten up by your never-ending checklist of stuff that you think only you can do, which in fact your free AI assistant can do. I know, me too. I got a pad just like that. Yeah. I have, one for the rentals, one for the business, one for the coaching, one for the kid. Yeah. So what would you otherwise be doing if you had your time freed up? I almost think about it like the old way of thinking is, if we just had 36-hour days instead of 24-hour days, I could get more done. Well, what if you only had 2 hours of keeping track of what was actually dollar productive, and it was all running in the background for you, and then you could free your mind out? what would you pursue? I mean, how many
Well,
big ideas do you have that you haven't pursued because you figure you don't have time to?
what Julie's saying, and it's really true, is nature abhors a vacuum. In other
Yes.
words, when there's all of a sudden something is removed, something will replace it.
Hmm.
And when you all of a sudden find yourself with not as much time needed to do a real estate transaction, be really successful at real estate, you're naturally going to start creating other things. And that's what AI is going to allow you to do at scale really fast, create entire businesses and we're at our cabin here up at a mountain in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And, we are big advocates of leaning into technology as much as we can. Here we are recording our podcast, and it's going to go up to the satellites from Starlink, and it's going to be
Hmm.
disseminated to 15 to 25,000 of you. I mean, that's kind of incredible, but you guys are all going to be in similar positions in your own worlds, however you want them to be, because of AI. So listen, our notes, we have a lot of notes, and I'm not doing all these notes. Julie,
It's
again,
okay. They're for the newsletter.
okay, they're for the newsletter. So if you want Julie's notes, which I know all of you guys do, there's 3 pages of them. They're waiting for you in the newsletter. Just subscribe to our newsletter, and it's free. HarrisRealEstateDaily.com is our newsletter. HarrisRealEstateDaily.com. It just takes 2 seconds. Just go to HarrisRealEstateDaily.com. The link is down below. Drop in your email address, double opt in, confirm you want the subscription. That's it. You get all of our day's notes. You get the day's podcast and video, and a lot of unique content we make just for our loyal and loving newsletter subscribers. All right, Julie, let's jump right in. Number one, and these are great ways to use ChatGPT. Number one that you wrote down is write listing descriptions with high-end appeal.
Yes, that's right. So even if you have a plain Jane run of the mill, what you normally would write, open and airy floor plan, which of course we'll all agree means nothing. Even if you have a boring, vanilla listing, you can ask ChatGPT to make it better. So for example, give ChatGPT the basics: number of bedrooms and bathrooms, square footage, key features, location, special upgrades. Then ask it to craft something refined. Like tell it to make it sound like a British Homes magazine ad. Or you could maybe even say, turn it into a poem, make it funny, make it more interesting, make me be dying to show it to my buyer. Okay. And you can run it through and do different iterations. So instead of open and airy floor plan, it might say, tucked beneath the striking Arizona skies, this 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath sanctuary marries effortless luxury with timeless sophistication. Doesn't that sound better than something plain and boring that sounds like every other listing? So this is something that virtually all of you can use, is just do it for your property descriptions. Make
Well,
sense, Tim?
totally, completely. Well, again, I know that there's people that are developing what I'm about to say, and because we're talking with them about maybe partnering with them, but there's going to be very soon. There's going to be essentially a plug and play. It's not even that. I haven't simplified it enough. You're going to have a virtual AI assistant that when you take a new listing, it's going to not only write the description, it's going to load you're going to take a picture of the MLS information if you hadn't keystroked it in already. It's then going to write the description. It's then going to create social media content for it. You maybe want the social media content to be talking about the incredible floor plan. It's going to use your voice. Maybe you want to create some social media content of you standing in front of the house. It's going to put you digitally in front of the house with you talking about the house. It's all simulated. This is AI doing all this for you. And you're going to have to do some kind of rudimentary video tour of the house. That way it has the raw footage to pull from. But
Yeah,
beyond
Tim,
that,
that's a great example of like how many of you listening right now haven't embraced video because you figure it's this huge, massive production and you don't have a video editor and you're not really that comfortable on camera anyway. And maybe your listings need staging. So all of that together means you didn't do a video, right? Where what you're talking about, Tim, is you can feed it the basic information to work with, ask it what you want as a result, and then have it do it for you in way less time with way better output, especially after training it a little bit, than what you would have done on your own, and replace the fact that most of the time you wouldn't have done it anyway. Is that?
or replace the fact that you have to pay somebody to do it, and they don't
Yes.
ever do that great of a job. Matter of fact, like when I remember when Julie and I sold real estate, uh, sellers hardly ever like the description you write.
Yeah.
So what we would do
Even
sometimes
if
is
it's
that
great.
we'd ask the seller sometimes to write their own description if they were really married to how it should read, or we would write it, or someone who worked for us would write it, and then work it back and forth with the seller. Those types of
And
things.
that
Well,
can
this
take a day of back and forth.
Oh yeah, especially if the seller's terrible, doesn't know what the hell they're doing. But
Right.
now with AI, you're going to be able to delegate that. You guys conceptually understand what we're saying. Open your minds to the fact. So if you're no longer having to do this busy work, what are you going to be doing? Yeah, some of you will go golfing. That's fine. Some of you are going to plant flowers. Some of you are going to, build the next supercomputer or whatever you're going to do. But this is what we're talking about. It's going to free you up to be able to do more things or do nothing at all. So that's kind of fantastic if you ask me. Point number two, enhance SEO and keyword strategy. Julie?
Yes. So if you want your content to work harder, you can use ChatGPT to identify long tail keywords and boost the discoverability of your listings, blog posts, social content. So you might ask it, give me a list of high converting keywords and long tail phrases for a blog post about, say, buying a home in Charlotte, North Carolina as a first time buyer. You're going to give it something specific to work with. And the example, let's see, example results that it's going to tell you, language to use: first time home buyer, Charlotte, North Carolina, how to buy your first home in Charlotte, best neighborhoods in Charlotte for new buyers. It's going to do that searching and, finding what's going to work for you so that you don't have to spend your time doing that. Does that make sense, Tim?
It does, but you said blog posts. If you guys are going to be putting effort towards anything, and AI is going to make your life a lot easier, like we just said, make sure you're putting it into YouTube, because YouTube is owned by Google, and then Google owns Gemini, and Gemini, without a doubt, is going to be, I think, one of the biggest, I think most dominant AI search. I don't even know what to call it. It's going to be one of the most dominant AIs. So if you're going to be doing anything that's passive, and if you're just say going to be creating property videos for your listings, because in your marketplace you have to be competitive, that's fine. Just make sure you're using AI to maximize the potential of those videos being searchable. I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, but if you go to your mobile phone and you do a search for, say, Charlotte, North Carolina, homes for sale in the Oakhurst subdivision, whatever it is, the almost always the results on your mobile phone are different than on your desktop. On your desktop, you still get a lot of pay-per-click stuff. You still get a lot of old school blue hypertext link stuff that comes up first. But you're noticing, hopefully, on mobile, you're getting videos prominently. Matter of fact, sometimes I've done searches and literally the first like 10 results are all videos that are linking back to YouTube. And then you click on you guys know how it works. But with AI, what's going to happen is AI is going to skip the need for you to click here and make sure that the suggested link was going to actually be valid for what you're looking for. AI goes in, and I don't know if, again, on iTunes, on YouTube videos and all these things, there's a transcript of everything that's said that's automatically being produced. AI is able to read those transcripts, and then what AI is able to then do is obviously go in there and say, these are the results based on what you're looking for in Oakhurst subdivision. This is what's available, and it's already gone in. So it's skipped the having to Google it, having to find the link that works, having to click the link, having to hope that the thing that you just clicked was actually valid for what you're looking for. AI then goes in, does all that work for you. So when it spits out a result, it's going to have already done all the, like a super assistant, and it's going to say, boom, here's the answer to your question. So when you're talking about SEO is search engine optimization, and that is completely different in this new world of AI. It's only marginally, first of all, SEO a lot of times is only marginally effective. And I know SEO people say that's blasphemy that I just said, but that's the truth. And the reason is because the rules for SEO change all the time, but they're going to be completely eviscerated during this era of AI. The SEO people out there, even the best ones, and Julie and I read some of the things that they write about on their websites and whatnot, they're completely clueless what effect, they're only guessing what effect AI is going to have on the mountains of SEO work that a lot of their customers have spent money with them to have developed. So this is essentially fertile ground for new opportunities for you. But the only thing I've been able to figure out so far that definitely seems to make sense is especially Gemini is leaning heavily into video search and reading the transcripts to find results. All right, Julie, let's move on to, it's funny, you just said what I was just talking about is point number 4. All right, point number 3, Julie, practice scripts and objection handlers.
Yes. Now, this may sound a little self-serving, but it's going to help you guys. Well, let's just say that you are a Premier Coaching client and you have all of the great proven scripts. You can feed those to your ChatGPT, and now you can make them your best role play partner. You can say, I'm going to play the seller. I want you to respond using these scripts, and you can go back and forth. Maybe you've got an appointment coming up where you know you're competing and you want to practice that. Maybe you know the seller is a tough negotiator and you want to talk about, your commission objections, things like that. So again, you can have a free assistant that's basically like your role play partner. So that's one thing.
Okay, Chris Heller just told me about an AI that does just that. I was looking it up.
Tell me about that.
I didn't mean to be up here rude and disinterested. It's called salesgo.ai. Just exactly what Julie just said. I have poked around on this, but not much, but it's called salesgo.ai. We have no business relationship with this company, but they do, Julie. It's essentially a real live role play partner that's using AI. I watched the demo on the site. The only thing I don't like is there's a little bit of a delay, but it is pretty accurate and you can do it in different
Hmm.
voices and,
That's
just
pretty
all kinds
cool.
of fun. Yeah, it is.
Good
Uh,
practice.
yep. All right. Point number 4, Julie, create scripts for video content.
Yeah, so you might say, write a 60-second script for a video explaining the home inspection process for first-time buyers. Okay, one topic at a time, short video content, it'll write a script for you. So now we've removed the objection of I would do videos, but I don't know what to say. It's already taken care of for you. So that's an easy, short point.
Now, remember, guys, do join us for our masterminds that we're doing this week. We're going to keep on doing them as long as you guys keep on showing up. So go to harrismastermind.com and register. The link is down below as well. And on these mastermind, Julie and I are going deep in on solving the biggest 3 challenges that you guys are having in real estate right now. Good news is the first one is the one that everyone agrees to, which is lead generation. So go to harrismastermind.com. The mastermind is free. These are virtual events, so you can attend anywhere. If you're on a beach chair listening to us right now, make sure you register right away and enjoy watching the mastermind as you're enjoying your, hopefully, a nice summer break. But go to harrismastermind.com and register. It costs you nothing. Again, it's harrismastermind.com. All right, Julie, let's go to point number 5. Use a prompt blueprint.
Okay, so this is you training yourself to ask in a way that you get faster, better results. For example, insert the type of content. Maybe that's a video script. Maybe that's a objection handler, but write whatever the type of content is for whoever your target audience is about whatever the topic is using a certain type of tone in what type of format. So for example, we use our original content for the newsletter, but I do use ChatGPT as my content and format editor. I tell it, how long it needs to be, how long each segment needs to be, who the audience is, what type of format I want it in so that the newsletter comes out looking nice. And sometimes, like on the Friday show, which is completely different than this show, if you haven't experienced our fun Friday shows.
Experience is a nice way of saying it. You haven't
Yes.
experienced it yet, like a roller
Experience.
coaster.
Yeah, sometimes it is like a roller coaster. I'll do the stories I'll do like 5 stories that I want to use for the Friday podcast, but I'll say these need to be presentable in 3 to 5 minute segments. So it helps me edit my own content back for clarity. But I'm telling it, I want the tone of Tim and Julie Harris. It's for the listeners who are our real estate professional agents and brokers. So you're giving it enough information that it does, I think probably some of you, if you're like me, when you first started using it, you'd kind of give it some direction, but then it would give you something back that just wasn't quite good enough or didn't sound like you or wasn't exactly what you intended. And you go back and forth 10 times until you're finally happy. By having a prompt blueprint where you're always saying, who is it for? What is the format supposed to look like? What are you trying to accomplish? And how long is it supposed to be? You're going to get faster and better results. That's what
Yep.
that's about.
Yep, that's really great. Yeah, Julie and I were talking about the fact that a lot of the AI seems to be not quite as useful as it was, say, 6 months ago. And we were trying to figure out why. The answer I came up with was because so many people are using now the big AIs that they're literally having problems fulfilling all the requests. So when you're using AI, this is where I'm going with this, is that you're allowed to be mean to your AI. This is where I'm going with this. Is when you're using AI and it
Not
gives you
cheating.
kind of a crappy answer, and maybe you've been using it for a while, like Julie and I have, and it can do a better job. You can literally say, Grok, that really is garbage. Why don't you do a better job? And
Mm-hmm.
and there it was Elon Musk that actually said all the AIs will do a better job and drill down more and give more detail if you just basically talk to them like a dog that just peed on the rug, right? If you say like, this is garbage, you got to do a better job. I know you can do a better job. And then before it gave you this little, curt answer, and then it gives you this beautiful, elegant answer. I don't know why the hell it's
Didn't
programmed
did
that
he say
way.
something like stop saying please and thank you so much because it has to analyze that and then respond to your pleases and thank yous and
That
be
was the
polite?
guy who owns Chat GPT or
Ah,
Chat OpenAI complaining that every time when people are being polite, it actually uses more energy. It doesn't
mm-hmm.
have any adverse effect on your experience. But all I'm
Gotcha.
saying is if you don't accept the first response that you get from AI, force it to do better, and you'll be shocked how much better it does. So there's different versions of AI that you can get now. The free one will work at a high level, provided you maybe bully it sometimes. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And then there's the fee version, which automatically starts with giving you results which are more in depth. And then there's really a next level one where they're calling it AI agents. And those are really expensive, but they're immediately starting at like PhD level responses to all of your questions. But like I alluded to earlier, Julie and I have used AI for doing what would have been very complex financial analysis when we're trying to do projections. We have coaching clients. Julie's got some elite coaching clients, and they're trying to, they're in their mid 50s or their mid 40s, and they're trying to figure out how much money they have to retire. And you have to figure out inflation and their local taxes and city taxes and state taxes and all this other stuff. And you can, Julie and I, we plug in all their information into one of the AIs. We usually will compare the two to see who gives a better response. And then it gives us these very beautiful, elegant, formatted, ready to go, professional looking financial analyses and plans for folks. And then what we'll sometimes do is we'll cut and paste that and we'll drop it into the other AI and we'll ask it to and analyze what this document says and look for faults. Like, where do you find that's not quite right about this? Or are there any assumptions about this that are a little bit, sketch?
Check
Those
the
types of
math
things.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have, but how much would it have cost? We wouldn't have known how to put that together personally, but how much would it have cost for us to hire somebody that knows how to do that? I know a lot. And how many
That's
of
right.
you,
And yeah.
go ahead, sorry.
What's funny is every now and then one of my elite coaching calls will use it related to the treasure map and goal setting and financial stuff. But it's funny how I've had some clients where they have teenage kids who are getting their first jobs, and the parent wants to say, it'd be really great if you saved 10% from each paycheck you got. And the kid's like, yeah, of course you'd say that. Your mom, of course, should say that. But when I've had them take it to ChatGPT and have the kid type in, if I'm making $200 a week and I were to save $20 from each paycheck, 5 years from now, invested in the S&P 500 or whatever we're using, what would that be worth? Somehow the authority of it not coming from the parent makes it like something they want to do. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, totally.
It's like an interested or maybe a disinterested third party. There's a little bit of interesting psychology there that there's
Well,
so many ways to use it, I guess.
So a lot of the information, the coveted information, has been behind paywalls, and you'd have to have gone and paid this, double PhD, whatever, sat in his office forever and maybe gotten 15 minutes of his time type experiences. We've all had those experiences, whether it be with accountant or, financial planner or some health guru or whatever. Well, what you don't realize is a lot of those guys, what they're doing to do all their analysis is they're actually using AI. So
Yeah.
what they're doing now is they're essentially just meeting with you and being the face of their work, of their business, and doing the human aspect of it, and then the AI is doing all the real work. And they used to have in the back office 20 people that were doing it. And now those people are maybe off doing other things. So open your mind. All right, so let's go to the next point, Julie.
Okay, number 6, and we do have our coaching clients using this from time to time, and that is to use ChatGPT or another AI as your negotiating assistant. Stuck dealing with a stubborn seller who won't budge on price? Because that never happens, right? Use ChatGPT to help you craft persuasive and fact-based responses. That'll just help you word it better. So here would be a prompt tip. Act as a real estate agent explaining to a seller why pricing their home $50,000 over the comps will likely lead to it not appraising, fewer showings, and possibly no offers. The seller insists their home is worth more. Respond in a professional, empathetic tone that encourages realistic pricing.
Julie, didn't you have recently tell me about one of your coaching clients that had an ornery seller? It was real complicated. Okay, so without mentioning names unless you want to, and she turned to Chat GPT to come up with something to send to the ornery seller. Am I remembering this right?
Yes, this had to do with, I won't use names, but I'll just use the facts. Let's just say there was a seller that was so
Let's just say
engulfed in the news, quote, news, that the seller had convinced themselves that the world was probably coming to an end. There were going to be catastrophic things. The market was going to lock up, and that would make their home unsellable. Well, this was already in contract, so how does that make any sense? But there was a lease attached to it. There was a lease back. And so this person wanted a clause that made it so that if there was some catastrophic event, that it was still closable or something like
Well,
that. And it was related to the lease, right?
this seller was so Looney Tunes. She thought that there was literally going to be riots, a civil war. The house was in contract. She was leasing the house back from the buyer.
At
And
an outrageously great price, by the way.
yeah, and she wanted to have a clause in there that in the event that in her mind,
The
riots were,
zombies came.
the zombies came, that she wasn't going to be responsible for the damage that happened to the house as a result of the zombies.
Basically, the whole
That is what
bunch of
this,
stuff wrapped up. And so, okay, so how do you write that up? Okay, because the coaching client doesn't want to lose the deal, is it knows that this seller can go off the rails very easily. So we went to ChatGPT together and we gave it the facts. We said this needs to be professional, an addendum to the lease. And, and Chat came back and said, well, there are phrases like that, but that doesn't get them out of the obligation that they have to actually sell the house because they're in contract and actually pay the lease payment. But it added some language like they could agree to extend it, and it made them feel warm and fuzzy. And she used it, and the seller's fine, and was actually pretty impressed with the language that was come up with. So you just never know how you're going to
yeah.
use that, right?
Well, none of us do. I mean, you and I have been really trying to study this because it's really hard to envision what your life would be like without all the mundane tasks,
Yeah.
like, so then you have to say, well, what the hell am I doing? It's a mundane task. And then when you figure out what a mundane task is, and you start with like a mundane task is anything and everything I'm doing in real estate that's not essentially, it's not a real live conversation with a human, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you start making a list of all the mundane tasks, the lower value activities that need to be done, 99% of what most people do during the day is a mundane task that AI is going to be able to do. That's exciting to me. What it won't be able to do is won't have meaningful conversations with folks. It won't work out for you.
No, but it can tee you up to have meaningful conversations.
Exactly. Yes.
Because there are things like our previous example. Honestly, on a coaching call, off the top of my head, I didn't have a script for that crazy combination of facts that she was dealing with, right? So I needed a script assistant, and it helped me out with that. And you're going to have things from time to time that are like that. From a coaching standpoint, I think it enables our listeners to say, yes, it'd be my pleasure to help you with that, more than they say, well, no, that's not really my cup of tea. Maybe it's something that's a neighborhood that's a great opportunity, but you've never even been to that neighborhood. You can ask for some research on that. You can ask for help with your CMA, which is our next point, analyzing market data for client reports.
Point number 7.
Point number 7, yes, analyze market data. That could be for a CMA. It could be for your Monday morning video report on what's hot and what's not. It can help you be more efficient and not have to use 3 or 4 different sources. Of course, you've got your MLS, you've got your board, you've got Altos Research, you've got all those things. You can say that to your AI assistant, use these resources and give me 5 bullet points on what's hot and what's not in Phoenix today.
Yeah.
So,
well, also where I would use this, Juliet, is if you're in a market where it's adjusting towards a balanced market or even a buyer's market, nobody is able to, I don't know of any of the CMA apps. I've never seen one where they'll do projections as far as what,
oh yeah, that's interesting too.
what direction the market's going. So it would be really badass if you could use AI then to essentially create information for your super analytical seller types that'll give them projections as far as and model out where prices will be in 90 days, 120 days. What a killer tool for getting price reductions.
Right.
So
And how much inventory based on current trends is about to come on the market to compete against your listing.
exactly. Based on how many houses have come for sale in previous years around this time. And then Mr. Seller, so this is what's going to happen based on what AI, no one's going to argue with AI. It's like the all seeing, it's like,
that's what I was saying about the kid example is like,
yeah.
for some
No,
reason that has more authority than
but
all
isn't
of
that
us
funny?
humans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so people will say, well, here's the thing, and here's what's going to be happening in the future. So Mr. Seller, I know you wanted to wait out the market to see if, and we wanted to hold repositioning the house in the market. In other words, lowering the price for another 60 or 90 days. But based on this research that AI did for us, I am sure you'll agree that the probability of the house going up in value in the next 60 days is very low. And so it might make the most sense to you to accomplish your goals that we reposition the house on the market now so we correctly reflect the buyer's expectations, right? Again, when you're talking to sellers, never say lower the price. That is your easy button for them to want to fire you, okay? Don't say lower the price. They will hate you, even though you don't necessarily realize you've just made a mistake. Always say,
even though you're trying to help them. Yeah.
exactly. Always say reposition the house in the market to correctly reflect the buyer's expectations. All right, Julie, let's round off there. And so
Well,
guys, if
wait,
you,
I have one more little thing. I want to skip
okay,
ahead to point number 9 because
okay,
this is highlighting a coaching client.
okay.
If any of you have buyer or seller referrals for Chicago, Christopher Leon is your guy. I love this example, Tim, because he told me this on a coaching call. Okay. Here's an example of how he's using ChatGPT that you might not have considered. Okay, so Chris created a project called Dress for Success. He was responding to one of our previous podcasts where we were talking about upgrade everything, right? So he called it Dress for Success inside ChatGPT. He assigned his AI the role of personal stylist, named it Santi. His AI is called Santiago, and gave it his body size, style goals, and preferences. His assistant now helps him evaluate outfit choices, build a flattering wardrobe, and plan his professional look. His prompt tip was something like this: act as my personal stylist named Santi. I'm 6'1", athletic build, and I want to dress professionally for real estate appointments and casual networking events. What wardrobe pieces should I focus on? What should I donate or keep? He's even given it pictures of his existing wardrobe and has turned it really into his dressing assistant. I think this is a great example.
But Julie, that's a for example of something that could easily turn into a business that people then would want to subscribe to
Right?
or use as a one-time thing. So Chris could take this idea, make this into a business, and have this basically be a little cash cow in addition to the 20 others that he created, in addition
Totally,
to the fact
right?
he's selling real estate. Yeah. Versus what? Trying to figure out how to make a funny
Cat video.
TikTok video. Yeah, I was going to say cat video meme. Yeah, no, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that idea. Good job, Chris Leon. So listen, guys, if you want all of our notes, you know what to do. Go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe to the newsletter. In the meantime, we have literally thousands of past podcasts. We've had tens of millions of downloads. Thank you for keeping this the number one listen to daily real estate coaching and training podcast, obviously for real estate professionals in maybe the world, but certainly the United States. It is our pleasure and our honor to be your real estate coaches. So please do go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter, harrisrealestatedaily.com. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.